You have been carrying it wrong. Not because you are careless, not because you are a bad person, but because no one ever told you what you were actually holding. Most people pick up a piece of turquoise in a market, in a jewelry store, in the palm of a stranger's hand, and they feel something. A quiet pull, a stillness, something that is hard to name but impossible to ignore. And then they buy it, put it on, and continue their lives. They think that is enough. It isn't. And the distance between what most people think turquoise is and what it actually is, that distance is enormous. Wide enough to contain 100 years of misunderstanding. Wide enough to contain the silence of everything that was never explained. I am going to close that distance today. Not completely.
We have
Some things
strayed
cannot
too
be
far
rushed,
from the old ways.
but enough that after this,
It is
you will
time
never look
now
at turquoise the same
to
way
remember
again.
the balance.
Before we go further, stop for just one moment. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. The knowledge shared here is not repeated. Each video is a single door opened once. If you miss it, you miss it. And I want to ask you something directly. Write in the comments the name of the country you are watching from. Right now. The country where you are sitting, standing, or lying down as these words reach you. I want to see it. My people always believed that true knowledge, like wind, has no walls and no borders. It moves where it is needed. It finds the ones who are ready. I want to see how far this reaches. I want to see where the wind carries this. Write your country. And then, stay with me. There is a reason schools never taught you this. There is a reason the labels in museums say things like ceremonial object or decorative stone, and leave it at that. A few words, a period, and silence. It is not that the knowledge was hidden. People confuse hiding with preserving. And that confusion has caused a great deal of loss in this world. When you hide something,
You
you
have come
bury
a
it
long way.
because you do not want it found.
Sit
When you
now,
preserve something,
and let us
you protect
speak
it
of what
because you
troubles
know
the
the world
wind.
is not yet ready to receive it without destroying it. My people preserved. They preserved the understanding of turquoise not in books, because books can be burned, can be rewritten, can be translated until the soul falls out of the words. They preserved it in practice, in ceremony, in the way a grandmother placed a stone in a child's hand and said nothing, but held the hand for a long time. In the silence of that held hand, the knowledge transferred. Not every knowledge can travel through language. Some things can only be transmitted through presence, through repetition, through living inside a tradition, long enough that it becomes part of how you breathe. What I am sharing with you today is a piece of that. A piece that can travel through words. The deeper layers, those still require presence, those still require time. But this piece, this is yours if you are willing to receive it slowly and not rush past it looking for the trick. There is no trick. There is only understanding or the lack of it. Let me ask you something direct.
Better than
When did you first encounter turquoise?
We will not abandon
For most
it
people,
now.
it was through decoration. A bracelet in a window, a pendant at a market, something worn by a person who seemed calm, who seemed rooted in themselves in a way that was hard to explain, and perhaps, you felt something near it that you could not name. That feeling is not your imagination. That feeling is your body recognizing something older than your mind's ability to categorize it.
Look at how
The
easily
Navajo
we can
relationship
join
with
together.
turquoise is not a tradition that began last
This is
century
the
or even
relationship we
1,000
must
years
build.
ago. It is a relationship that stretches back so far into time that historians lose count of the generations. And what the Navajo recognized in that stone, what my ancestors saw when they held it up to the light of the sky, was not simply beauty. They saw correspondence. Correspondence between the color of the sky at a certain hour of the morning, that specific blue that has green in it, that lives between dawn and full day, and the color of the stone. They saw the sky living inside the earth. They saw a bridge, and in the Navajo worldview, bridges are not passive structures. A bridge is a place of conversation, a place where two things that should never meet do, sky and earth, above and below, the seen and the unseen. Turquoise was where that conversation happened. And my ancestors were not content to observe that conversation from a distance. They wanted to participate in it. They wanted to carry that meeting point on their bodies, close to their skin, close to their heartbeat, so that the conversation would never stop, even in the middle of ordinary life. That is the first truth about turquoise. It is not a symbol. It is not a metaphor. It is a living point of contact between two worlds that are always trying to reach each other. Now I want to show you the actual process, the mechanism behind what I am describing. Because my people were not mystics who floated above reality. They were observers. Careful, patient, extraordinarily precise observers of the world as it actually is. They noticed patterns that took generations to confirm. They built their understanding on what they saw, not on what they wished to see. Here is what they observed. The world is not a collection of separate objects. That is perhaps the deepest correction my tradition offers to the modern mind. The idea that things exist in isolation, contained inside themselves, defined by their borders. In the Navajo understanding, nothing exists in isolation. Everything exists in relationship. The rain is in relationship with the soil. The soil is in relationship with the roots. The roots are in relationship with the tree.
The wind remembers
the tree
the
is in
names
relationship
of
with
those
the
who came
air.
before
The
us.
air is in relationship with the breath in your lungs right now.
Do you listen to
You
the
are
wind?
already part of all of it. You always were. You just may have forgotten. Now, turquoise exists at a very specific point in that web of relationships. Its mineral composition places it at the intersection of copper and aluminum and water and time. It forms in arid places, in deserts, in high-altitude terrain, in places where sky and earth are very close to each other, where the distance between them feels
We have
thin.
lived on this land
My
for
ancestors
generations.
noticed this. They noticed
If we
that
do not
turquoise did
protect
not
it
form
now,
in lush forests
it
or
will
deep
be
oceans.
lost forever.
It formed where sky and earth pressed close, where the boundary between above and below was worn thin by heat and drought and centuries of sky touching.
We
And
cannot
so the
afford
stone
to make
carries
this
that
mistake
thinness in its
again.
body. It carries the place where the
There is
boundary
too much
dissolves.
at stake.
When a person wears turquoise with awareness, truly understanding what they are placing against their skin, they are placing a piece of that dissolved boundary against their own body. They are inviting the conversation between worlds to continue through them. They become, in a sense, part of the bridge, not a passive carrier, an active participant. And here is the crucial point that so many people miss. The stone does not do this for you.
This
the
is the
stone
truth
makes it
of our
possible.
people.
You are the one who has to
Remember
show up
this
to the
face,
conversation.
remember these words.
This is where I need to stop and be
We
very
will not
direct.
be moved.
Because the most dangerous misunderstanding about turquoise, the one that has spread the furthest and caused the most spiritual harm, is this. People believe the stone protects them. People believe that if they wear turquoise, something will be deflected. Something bad will turn away. That the stone creates a kind of invisible wall around them. This is not what my people believe. This is not what the tradition teaches. And carrying turquoise with that belief is not neutral. It is actively harmful because it places your sense of security in an object rather than in yourself. And that kind of misplaced security is one of the ways a person slowly weakens without ever knowing why. Let me tell you what the elders actually said. They said turquoise is a reminder, not a shield, not a weapon, not a lucky charm, a reminder. A reminder of who you are when you are at your most aligned, when you are in right relationship with the earth, when you are in right relationship with the people you love, when your words match your actions, when what you carry inside matches what you show the world. In those moments, in those rare and beautiful moments of genuine alignment, a person does not need protection in the way most people imagine it, because harm does not land in the same way on a person who is fully themselves. Not because the harm does not exist, but because the person has nowhere inside them that is empty and waiting to be filled with something dark. Fear,
We must
bitterness,
remember the old
resentment,
ways,
grief,
for they hold the key
these
to
are
our
the
future.
open doors.
The
And
morning air
turquoise,
reminds
understood
us to breathe
correctly,
and listen.
was a daily invitation to check those doors, to notice if one had swung open without your awareness, to close it not with force, but with attention. That is the real protection. Not the stone's power, your awareness, your honesty with yourself. The stone was only ever pointing at you. When this knowledge is lost, when turquoise becomes only decoration, only fashion,
My decision on this
only
matter
something you
is
buy
final.
because it is beautiful
We will
or
proceed
because
as
someone
planned,
told you it would bring good
starting
energy,
now.
something specific begins to happen. It does not happen all at once. This is important to understand. The consequences of misunderstanding something sacred are slow. They accumulate quietly, like dust on a window. One day you look at the glass and realize you have not been able to see clearly for a long time, and you cannot pinpoint exactly when it changed. Here is what accumulates. First, in the mind.
The earth remembers.
A person who treats
We
sacred
must
things
listen to the
casually
whispers of the
begins to
wind,
lose the
for
ability
they
to
carry
feel the
the
weight of
voices
important
those who
things.
came before us.
Everything becomes equally light, a ceremony and a routine, a promise and a preference, a stone that carries centuries of relationship, and a pebble picked up from a parking lot. When everything feels the same, nothing feels meaningful. And a life without meaning is not a life that has been stripped of hardship. It is a life that has been stripped of depth. The hardships stay. The depth drains away. Second, in the environment. My people understood that human consciousness and the land around it are in relationship. The way you treat the things of the earth, what you call sacred, what you treat carelessly, how much attention you bring to what lives around you, these things ripple outward.
As you can see, the gap
a
has
community
widened.
that treats turquoise
We
as
started
only
here,
decorative
and now
is a
we must
community
account
that
for
has, in
this
that
much
small
space
way,
between the 2
chosen
points.
to see the earth as only material, only resource, only thing to be used. And that choice, repeated 10,000 times across 10,000
You carry the
small
light of
moments,
your ancestors
shapes a
within you.
world. We are living in that world right
Never
now.
forget
Third,
who you are.
in family. The Navajo gave turquoise not only to individuals but to children, to babies. Not as decoration but as an introduction, a first conversation with the sacred world that the child had just entered. That conversation was meant to continue for a lifetime. When it is not started, when children grow up without any object or practice or word that says you are in relationship with something larger than yourself, something quietly breaks in the transmission between generations. Not loudly, not visibly, but it breaks. And one day the grandchild looks at the grandmother's old turquoise ring, now in a jewelry box, now reduced to an heirloom, and feels something they cannot name. A longing,
The time for
a
talking
grief
is
they have
over.
no language for. That is the
We
consequence,
know
a
what
generation
must be done.
inheriting objects without inheriting the understanding that made those objects alive. So what do you do? If you have turquoise anywhere in your life, in any form, what do you do with what I have
This
just
stone
told you?
holds the
The
wisdom
answer
of
is
our
not complicated,
ancestors.
but it requires
If you look
something that modern
closely,
life makes
you will see the
increasingly
path
rare.
forward.
It requires slowness. The first thing is attention, as I said before. But I want to be more specific now. Pick up your turquoise, or hold this
When the
knowledge in
world
your hands
shakes,
as if it were a
you
stone,
must find your
and
anchor.
ask yourself one question.
This
What
is
am
where
I in
we
relationship
stand.
with?
This
Not
is
what do
who we
you own.
are.
Not what do you believe. What are you actually in relationship with in your life right now? Your family. Are you in real relationship with them? Or are you
must
only in
understand
proximity?
that the old ways
Your
are not
body.
simply stories.
Are
They
you
are
listening
the
to it?
instructions for how we
Or are you
must
carrying
live.
it around like a vehicle?
forget this at
the
our
earth
peril.
beneath you. Do you notice it at all, or does it exist only as the thing your feet press against on the way from one indoor space to another? Turquoise, in the Navajo tradition, was a diagnostic tool. A mirror. You held it and it showed you the state of your relationships. Not through magic. Through the honest act of slowing down enough to hold something and feel whether it connects with anything inside you, or whether the inside
As the
has
new
gone
day
quiet.
begins, remember
If
the
it
lessons
connects,
of the past.
good.
Be
Stay
strong,
in that.
be
Breathe
vigilant,
in that.
and
Let the
always
stone
honor the
remind you
earth.
of the web you are part of. If it does not connect, do not panic. Do not assume you are broken or lost. Assume you have drifted. Drifting is not failure. Drifting is what happens to everyone. The Navajo ceremonies existed precisely because human beings drift. Because even the most connected person wakes up one morning and realizes they have not been paying attention for weeks, months,
Walk in
sometimes
balance,
years.
remember the old
The
ways.
ceremony was not punishment.
It is
It was a
time
return.
now to be still.
You can return too. You do not need a ceremony you were not born into. You need honesty. You need one honest moment, one real undefended moment of holding something in your hand and saying, I have been drifting. I want to come back. Show me what I have forgotten. Say that to the sky. Say it to the earth. Say it quietly, in whatever language your heart actually speaks. And then wait. Not for the stone to answer, for yourself to answer. Because the knowledge is already inside you. It was always inside you. The turquoise is only the question. You are the response. The turquoise came from deep inside the earth, formed not in a single day or
The
year
wind
or century,
remembers.
but over
The
millions of
stones
years,
remember.
pressed into existence by
Now
forces that
it is up
human
to
beings
you
will never
to carry
fully
the
measure
memory
or
forward.
name. My ancestors found it and recognized in its color something they had always felt but could never quite hold in their hands. The meeting of sky
This
and
is
earth,
the way it has
the place where
always
above
been,
and below stop being
and how it
opposites
must
and
continue.
become one continuous thing. They wore it not because it was rare, not because it was valuable, but because it was true. It told the truth about how the world works, that nothing is truly separate, that everything is in conversation, that the smallest stone and the largest sky are part of the same living thing, and they wanted to carry that truth on their bodies, to feel it against their skin, to remember it in the middle of difficult days, to pass it, hand to hand, generation to generation, without the meaning ever draining out. That is the sacred, not the object, the unbroken meaning, the living conversation between a person and everything that existed before them and everything that will exist after. When you carry turquoise with that understanding, even imperfectly, even on the days when you forget, and it is just a pretty stone, you are participating in something ancient. You are keeping the conversation alive. And that matters, not because the stone needs you, but because you need the conversation. We all do. The elders used to say this, and I will close with their words reshaped into something the modern ear can hold. What you understand becomes alive in your hands. What you carry without understanding becomes only weight. Choose understanding, even if slowly, even if imperfectly. The stone is patient. It has been waiting millions of years. It can wait for you.